What do you think about Salzburg? Isn't that a wonderful place, though? We wish the sun would shine, but it's up there. But we're having change of seasons now, so this weather is kind of typical for us once in a while.
Once in a while, they have 180 days
Okay.
of rain.
You know, the way you see Salzburg, this city was founded in the year 696 by a bishop who came here as a missionary. That man's name was Rupert. He was from Worms, now part of Germany. For over 1,000 years, the city's been ruled by prince archbishops under authority of the Pope. Salzburg only belonged to Austria since 1816. It belonged to Bavaria 6 years before that. Even 1 year before then, it belonged to France, when Napoleon invaded the city. One of the more famous prince archbishops that ruled Salzburg was a man called Wolf Dietrich from Reichenau. Among other buildings, he built a beautiful palace called the Mirabell Palace. We were parked in front of it back there. That palace back there today houses the government offices for Salzburg. It's not worth visiting with the Do-Re-Mi song. If you walk through the front gate of that palace, go through the courtyard and out the back door, you'll just about fall right into that Pegasus water fountain. Maria and the children danced around the fountain singing the Do-Re-Mi song. Has anybody seen this movie? Okay, remember the scene. Remember the scene. Maria and the children are running through an ivy-covered walkway. It's back there. The steps. Each step a different note of the song. Remember, the first step would be Do. A deer, a female deer. Okay, that's enough. What about the scene not too many people remember, though? The children were skipping by a little statue of a dwarf. And as they were skipping by, they were patting on the head. Remember that? Feel back there, too. What about one of my favorite scenes? Maria sees two great big statues of handsome-looking muscular men. The statues are on each side of a road, sticking their arms out at each other, kind of like this. Remember? Maria saw those statues. She got so excited when she saw them. She grabbed the children. They ran between the statues. They stuck their arms out in the air, like the statues are doing. Do you remember that? Feel back there, too. Now, you might be wondering, well, that's all fine. Are we going to go back there and see those things? No, we never do. In the world. It's popular everywhere. It's not popular here in Salzburg. And it's not because the Austrians didn't like this movie. They never really had a chance to see it. It was only released in the German language 17 years ago. In 1965, when the movie was released here, it lasted 3.5 weeks in their theaters. This movie started out as a German movie. A German film company bought the rights to a book Maria wrote about her life. $1 for those rights. The Germans called their movie The Trapp Family Singers. It was a success. It was such a success the Germans decided to make the sequel to their movie called The Trapp Family Singers in America. And that's when 20th Century Fox got really jealous. They saw just how well those Germans were doing with their movie. They thought they could make an even better version. The Germans refused to sell. So that's when the Americans got smart. They started the Broadway play, the musical called The Sound of Music. The music was by Rodgers and Hammerstein. The lead role of Maria was played by a woman called Mary Martin. You might remember her from Peter Pan and South Pacific. But anyway, the Broadway play lasted 4.5 years on Broadway. They won 7 Tony Awards. Century Fox did get the rights to the movie. They made their own version. Well, they decided not to base their version on the original story like the Germans did. They based their version more or less on the Broadway play. They made it kind of a musical themselves. And that's why this movie, The Sound of Music, is popular all over the world. It isn't very popular here. Those few Austrians that did get a chance to see this movie, they've seen the German version, and they know about all the liberties Hollywood took with their version. Hollywood never wanted to make a documentary-type film. Maria von Trapp got so mad at Hollywood at one point, she threatened going to the newspapers and telling them what a terrible thing they were doing with her story. They ended up giving her $900,000 US, and she was quiet. So that's the end of the tour. Thank you for your money. Please get out quickly. Don't forget our wonderful tip. Just can't do that with an upright piano, but who knows? One day you might have a genius in the family that pays all your bills. Mozart lived over here when between 17 and 24 years old. Now the music he created in his mind, he practiced on the church organ, and the church you'll see in a moment on the left, the Church of the Holy Trinity. This is only one of two churches. Is the Church of the Holy Trinity. No one's ugly, I know that. I'm silly. Look in front of us to the right, you see the Cafe Bazaar. Now drink a cup of coffee in there. You'll be awake at least 3 days. The Turks went over Austria once we took over their coffee culture. Now you see the fortress. What we'll do, we'll drive behind the fortress, then I promise you, tell you all about the fortress. The fortress is right there. Coming up on the hard right, look up on the hill. Museum of Modern Art. Haven't been there yet? You're missing probably the most wonderful view of the whole city of Salzburg. Elevator rides going right up to it. Part of the Do Re Mi song was done there. What else is nice is right here, the Hotel Stein. Walk inside like you own the place. Get on the elevator and sit up on the roof. That roof up there is really care about and talk about your feelings. Now I personally think their food's too expensive. I won't eat up there. What you can do, go over their cameras, have a wonderful photograph, go back down. When you're up there, you're going to say, I'm so glad I did this. Don't miss that. And of all the 45 Roman Catholic churches in Salzburg, don't miss the one on the hard right. Red roof, the green steeple. Connected onto the right side of that church is the city's largest beer hall, the Augustiner Brau. 2,000 beer drinkers inside. The best thing about the beer hall is there's a hospital next door. I'll give you the directions to give out. They've got great food there too. Look to the left, on top of the roof. That's where you'll be. That is the Hotel Stein. Now Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz did a movie out there once called Night and Day. You can jump from one roof to the next just like they did. Notice the footbridge in front of us. It was featured in The Sound of Music. At our end, running the other direction, Maria and the children in their curtain clothes, singing the Do Re Mi song. That's the bridge running across right there. And look at those beautiful buildings on the left over there. A great fire in 1818 destroyed everything there. Most of those buildings were built right after that. The rich Aussies live there now, of course. Ferdinand, our bus driver, has a house there. He lives under the bridge. Do you remember the scene for the movie? The nuns are in the abbey. They were singing this song. How do you solve a problem like Maria? Okay, do you remember all of a sudden the camera pans off to a mountain? We see Maria up on a mountain picking flowers. Remember all of a sudden Maria heard the bells to the abbey? She knew she was late, so she grabbed all of her things as quickly as she could. She went running down this mountain for the abbey. She forgot her hat though, didn't she? She ran back and picked it up. Well, then she ran down this mountain for the abbey. She got to the abbey. She broke through the front gates, ran across the courtyard, stopped at a water pump, splashed water on her face, then went running off to the other side. Well, if you remember, the whole time, the Reverend Mother and some of the nuns were watching Maria. All of a sudden, Maria saw the Reverend Mother and she stopped, dead in her tracks, and just walked calmly off, as if nothing happened. Do you all remember that scene?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry I was late, I'm so sorry. But I was on a mountain. It was my mountain. Beautiful day, I kept climbing higher and higher.
What?
No, I knew I wouldn't get lost. Please, can you forgive me? What do you think about my acting? It's over here all by itself. No other houses around it. That was the executioner's house. Nobody liked that guy. Didn't want to live near him. Just for that, he had to take care of the vegetable gardens down here as well. Sometimes he practiced by cutting lettuce head. What a nut. Now, normally on the left you can see the Untersberg, but it's pretty much covered up with clouds. But even if you could see the escaping into Switzerland from on that same mountain, the Untersberg, there's only one thing wrong with the scene. The Untersberg is half in Austria, the other half is in Germany. They were going the wrong way. Switzerland's about 500 kilometers in that direction. Could you imagine poor little Gretel after all that walking? Well, now you know, these are only some of the liberties Hollywood took with this movie, and that's why those few Austrians who did get a chance to see this movie, they had their doubts. Isn't all that just fine, though, because we love this movie. And you might be happy to know they were able to film the beginning and closing scenes of The Sound of Music on the Untersberg. So many problems trying to get permission, they gave up on the idea and went looking for a different building. So we'll drive by the one they did use in just a few minutes. That building you're looking at right there is built in 1736. It belonged to one of the Prince Archbishops. Today they use it mainly for seminars. Recently, they've even opened it up as a hotel. Remember the scenes that were filmed here? Maria and the children in their curtain clothes, the boat out there, they capsized and fell in the water. Gretel, the little one, she almost drowned in that scene. They had to do the scene twice. The first time, Julie Andrews and all the children fell out of one side of the boat. Julie Andrews grabbed Gretel as they went under. Everything was fine. But no, they had to do it again. The second time, Julie Andrews fell out of one side of the boat, the children fell out of the other side, and Gretel went under. She came back up for air and went back under. They dove in to save her. They pulled her out at the last second. She threw up all over Louisa's shoulder. I read that. What about Rolf, the Nazi postman? Do you remember that guy? Remember I rode his bicycle around the right side there? He stopped and was throwing stones at a window. Why was he doing that? Does anyone remember? Trying to get Liesel's attention, that's right. Some people think it was because he was a Nazi. How about upstairs? We look inside, saw those people dancing. Remember the ball for the Baroness? There's a wonderful room inside that building with mirrors all over the walls. Now it was unbelievable, but Hollywood got permission to go in and film. So they took their cameras in there, the generators for the electricity, the lighting. They set everything up. The actors and actresses came in, followed by the Austrian authorities. The Austrian authorities saw all that equipment in there and all those people. They were so afraid something might get damaged in there, they threw everyone out. And they almost had to stop the movie. Somebody got smart though. They called up Hollywood, sent for 2 artists. Those artists came back. They sketched the interiors of all the other palaces and castles they planned on using. They had them rebuilt in the studios in Hollywood.
Good put it.
You want any good news? Most enjoyable.
Oh, that's nice. Tough one, isn't it? You see that wall over there? That's remnants of a wall. They used to go all the way around the city of Salzburg. Now that's what kept Salzburg out of the 30 Years' War in the 17th century. Those days kind of like neutrality. Since then Salzburg has expanded, gotten much bigger, they've taken the wall down in certain parts of the city. There are still big chunks of it still around. This whole valley of Salzburg was a big lake 20,000 years before Christ. The lake was 20 miles long and 8 miles wide. Now the water has somewhat disappeared, but the mud here, medicinal quality mud. If you take a mud bath while you're here in Salzburg, you'll come out looking like a newborn. That means no hair, no teeth, but you'll feel wonderfully. Okay, then there's a tower in the middle and a tower on the right side. That tower on the right side has a little room on it jutting out this way. Do you all see that?
Yes.
That was the Prince Archbishop's toilet. And that is the truth. If you decide to take a tour there, they will show it to you. There was no such thing as plumbing in those days, just drafty. But doesn't the fortress look strange? 3 towers on the left side, a jagged roof in the middle, the right side, a normal looking roof. But there's a good reason for that. Decided to add on to the fortress in the style and way he wanted to. We've been told that is the biggest, best. Most of the people living there are artists. The government here will pay those people to live there. And it must be nice. You should see some of them. Remember she was wearing a funny looking leather hat? She had on those really ugly looking clothes the nuns gave her to wear. She was skipping down a road, swinging her guitar in her suitcase, singing that confidence song. Do you remember how she got to the front gate of the Von Trapp villa? She looked through and saw how big the house really was. And all of a sudden she got real quiet. Then she gathered her confidence up, started singing that song. She broke through the front gate, skipped across the courtyard. When she got to the front door, she rang the bell. The butler answered the door. Maria said something like, "Hello, Captain Von Trapp. I'm here to serve work as governess." And the butler said something like, "I'm just the old butler." Remember that scene? But you know, that tree-lined alleyway runs into a magnificent castle, and that's where we're headed now.